This is the 2025 Porsche Macan, and in today's Vehicle Visionary video, I'm going to tell you why you might be surprised if you go with this particular model with the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine under the hood. There's a lot of great things here. You don't have to have the most power to enjoy your vehicle. Hey everybody, it's Tom from Vehicle Visionary. I hope you're having a great day. We're back at Porsche Shreveport. Check out the link in the description of the video if you want to come in and check out this model or anything else they have in inventory. The exterior color is called Chalk. It has a black and Mojave beige interior, a very nice look. Not too bright, but nice enough to help you out without having to deal with all of the problems that come up with an all-black interior. The main problem there, especially here in Northwest Louisiana this time of the year, being the heat and the issues that come with that. Let's talk about what you'll find here on the front end. LED lighting, full LED lighting with your headlights, with your daytime running lights, with your turn signal indicators. It's all LED. You're going to have cameras all over this model. The Porsche crest prominently displayed right here, but not too big. But I like that that has remained the same for all these years. And something that Porsche does so well, it doesn't matter if it's an SUV or one of the cars that Porsche offers, you can tell it's a Porsche when you look at it. All-wheel drive, gonna help you out in so many different ways. We're gonna have the 20-inch wheels here. A nice look, but not overdone. Not too much, not too little. I do like the contrast with the brake calipers on this particular model compared to the wheel style. It works really well. And the side view mirrors are gonna have everything you want. They're gonna have the turn signal indicators built in. They're heated, they're power adjustable, and they're also going to be power folding. And to use the folding functionality, we push the button right there, and you'll see that the mirrors will fold in automatically. And here is your remote. Obviously it looks like a car when you look from this angle. It's going to have the Porsche crest right there. And then our functionality of lock, unlock, and we can open and close the power tailgate with the button right there. That's always nice. You will find a panoramic sunroof. We take a look at that up top, and the rear roof spoiler back here on the power tailgate. And a little bit easier to see our LED taillights here with the shadow. On the rear of the Macan, we'll find the exposed rear wiper right here. But I know a lot of people like to see that inside of the rear roof spoiler. Tell me what you think about that. How big of a deal is that for you? Most people, I don't think it's too much. Now, something you won't find here are fake exhaust outlets. These are active. Nothing surprising as far as a Porsche model goes. Speaking of exhaust, let's talk about what is being exhausted. And you already know what's under the hood. The 2-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder makes 261 horsepower and 295 pounds-feet of torque. It's mated to a 7-speed PDK dual-clutch automatic transmission. One advantage to not having the most powerful engine under the hood of your Macan is the MPGs, 19 city, 25 highway, 21 combined, and 4.8 gallons of gas per every 100 miles driven. For those of you that like to have a look at the window sticker, now is the time to pause the video. 0 to 60 is about 6 seconds flat. Top speed is 144 miles per hour. The gas tank size is 19.8 gallons in capacity. Can drive about 376 miles in the city and 495 miles out on the highway on a full tank of gas. Cargo capacity will range between 17.2 to 53.1 cubic feet. You can see that you can lower these seats down. Now there's a couple of different things you can do as far as the seat backs go. We can also lower down that center seat right there and create a pass-through. The cargo cover is removable. I'm curious to know, do you like this style of cargo cover or the kind that is retractable that you'd pull back and put in place? And something else that should bring some happiness to potential owners, because it's going to bring peace of mind, is the presence of a spare tire. Now that is a temporary spare tire, but it will do the job when you need it. The interior is filled with high-end materials. The only thing I do wish was a little different back here. You have this section of the armrest for these back doors that is flat, but this section is not. It seems that it would be more comfortable if the entire thing was flat at the same angle. Just my opinion on the matter, but tell me what you think. And have the door bends right here. And to lower your seat backs, you're going to use this release, unlike the Cayenne, which has a release right here. And here's what I was telling you about earlier in the video. Now we're going to pull this down, and there is a release right here. When you reach in there, you'll be able to feel that, and that's how you're going to create the pass-through that I was telling you about earlier in the video. There is your panoramic sunroof. That front portion can open, and then you can see right here that you have a power shade that can be drawn forward or back depending on your needs. And we'll find the rear seat pockets right here. We're going to have our air conditioning vents. You can adjust the temperature right here, as you can see. You can also turn the heated seats off and on, something we sure don't need right now in the middle of the summer in Northwest Louisiana. Something you will need if you're a rear seat passenger, something you have here, a couple of USB options. And as you already saw, but we'll go ahead and show it one more time, is the fold down armrest with the cup holders built in. My favorite style, because even when you have cups in these cup holders, you can still use this as an armrest as opposed to your typical parallel cup holders, because obviously, well, if they were up there in the front like they normally are, parallel to each other, that would be a little bit harder to use as an armrest when you have cups in the cup holders. Tell me what you think about that. The driver and passenger seats will have the same controls, so everything to control the different positions that you may want to adjust. There's also a thigh extension right here that can be brought out. Bring that out just to show you how that works. Personally, I like to keep that as far in as possible. It's just more comfortable for me, but it's nice to have those options. And something that I know is very important to a lot of you is lumbar support. One thing I wanted to say about the rear seat backs that I know is often a question that people ask about: can you change the position? Can you recline them more or less? In other words, only one fixed position. I know a lot of you would like to see that be adjustable, but in this case, it's not. A little bit of recline built in. In case you didn't see the window sticker earlier and you're wondering about the sticker price, it's $76,305. Let's see what else you get for that price. I'm gonna go right here and take a look at the glove box. Plenty of room within that area. And give you a quick look around. Here is your upper console. This is how I managed the power shade that I told you about earlier. I brought that forward to minimize the light coming into the interior, and you can see some of the additional features here as far as the buttons and functionality goes. This is what you're going to use to control opening and closing the sunroof. And then over here on the driver's side, we're going to find seat memory. Now the good thing about it is that you have seat memory on the passenger side. I always say I'd like to see if you have it on the driver's side, also on the passenger side. Just one of those things that's my personal preference. Now we're also going to have the controls for our side view mirrors right here, our windows, all that good stuff is going to be here. And here is how you start the vehicle. Most of you likely know about that. And you don't have a button here. I think a lot of people like to have something they can physically put their hands on. It just makes you feel a little more involved, at least temporarily, when driving your Macan or hopping inside. Everything for controlling your headlights, taillights, all that good stuff is right here. In fact, let me show you one thing that I did want to talk about earlier in the video. Close that door one more time, and that has to do with the blind spot monitoring location. You can see where it is on the inside of the mirror. I like the size of what you have right there. However, it does seem that it might be better to be in the mirror, because when you look in your side view mirrors and you look in your blind spot, you're going to be maybe a little more likely to see that. I don't know. Tell me what your thoughts are with that. Everybody has their preferences, but I do like the size and that it's as bright as it is. A tilt and telescopically adjustable steering wheel, although it is manually adjustable. You can see that by the lever right there. And then we have everything for controlling the radio from the steering wheel right here. We also have everything for going through a lot of different information over on the right-hand side of the driver's display. You can see what all is here. All I'm doing is scrolling through right there. You can even see your navigation that comes up. Nice to have that. That answers a question that a lot of people have, asking whether or not it has built-in navigation. Also, the nice large shifter paddles for managing that 7-speed transmission. Tell me what your thoughts are here. Personally, I would rather have cruise control built into the steering wheel controls up here somehow, some way. That works for me a little bit better, but I don't know. Some people might say, you know what, Tom, here's why I'd rather have it right there with that lever. What are your thoughts? Turn signal indicator right here. You can control your turn signal indicators right there with the lever. That's not a turn signal indicator, is it? Let me make sure I say that correctly. The turn signal control, turn signal stalk, whatever you want to call that. Front and rear window wiper controls right here. Now, one thing that I really like about the Macan is the fact that you do still have these analog gauges here, a little bit of more modern controls here as we looked at earlier. By the way, if you're wondering about adaptive cruise control, yes, it is adaptive cruise control now. And here is our center screen. And something that I really like here is the way the navigation shows up. I told you that you have your built-in navigation. Well, here it is. In fact, we can zoom in just like that. And there we are at the dealership. You can see where I'm actually sitting on the dealership lot right there. Kind of a neat little view, but you can do that. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, whatever you need to do. By the way, don't do that while you're driving. I want to make sure nobody gets that to be something that I'm talking about. Now, you have everything else here for music, your phone. You can pair your smartphone wirelessly here if you want to. We can go right here and see different things we can do with the vehicle itself as far as your different features and functionality go. Makes everything very easy. We'll go in and look at a couple of things. When you're finished here, of course, we can go and look at a couple of different options that we have as far as that goes. When we go back up here, it brings up that arrow to go back a screen, in case you were wondering about that. We're not going to go over everything, but I just wanted to show you a couple of quick little things that are here. Now, if you want to see all of your apps at one time, here's how you're going to do that. Don't really need to explain too much here, but I know a lot of people like to know about that. If you want your legal information and you're wondering exactly what that is, well, go ahead and make that selection and you can come in here and read all about it. And if you're curious about your cameras, I talked about how there are cameras all over this Macan, and you want to see the overhead view along with your front view, you can do that. There it is right there. There's the rear view. Take a look at a couple more views. There's literally a view from every single direction. In fact, if you want to see overhead, there is the overhead view. You're going to have your control right here for turning the radio on and off and adjusting the volume and then going through your stations right there. Nice large air conditioning vents, dual zone climate control. You can sync everything together if you want to. If you want to know if something is on, well, make sure to hit that button right there and you'll find out that you have that red indicator that comes on. If it's not on, then that means, well, obviously you need to push it, depending on what you need to do. And the good thing about that is that you do sync not only the temperature, but also the fan speed. I don't want to turn that up too high because it will not allow for good audio. Now, you'll notice the three red indicators right here, 3 different stages. That's actually for your heated seats, something we don't need today. There's what we need, the blue, for our ventilated seats. And well, those seats definitely get some air flowing in a hurry. I can definitely feel that. If you're wondering how well that works, it does a nice job. Now, you have a couple of different modes you can select from right here. If we want to go into sport mode, you'll notice that's on, red indicator, and then the same thing here with sport. Now, depending on what you need to do, you can go into that right there, turn that on. It turns the auto stop start feature off. You can see traction control right there, some of our other features as well. Pretty easy to deal with. Probably don't need to tell you too much about it because I know you know what's going on here. Here's our shifter, a conventional style shifter. I know a lot of you are very much anti push button shifters in your vehicles. You won't find that here. That's nice to know. There's your power parking brake, and we'll find the Macan logo here. A couple of cup holders and our center console. Maybe not the most space you've ever seen, but there is a little bit of space here, and you can see inside that there is some connectivity. Okay, let's get out on the road for a quick test drive. Now, the only thing here that you might want to consider with the Macan is that the back seat is not the most spacious as far as head space. Well, it depends on a person's height. The front seat, very spacious. And as far as the overall driving experience, well, I'm barely easing into the pedal and having no trouble getting up to speed whatsoever. I'm trying to make sure that I don't go too aggressively onto the gas pedal. It wouldn't be very hard to do as far as this model goes, although we don't have the most horsepower available, but it's still a lot of fun to drive. Great handling characteristics. You won't have any trouble making your way through the turns. If you're having a rough day and you get out on the road for a spirited drive outside of the city limits, it will definitely handle the corners nicely. A great turning radius too. Going to stay stuck to the road with that all-wheel drive that this model has. And it is easy to see out of, including the rear window. And I know that's a question some people might have, because of the slope of the roof line and the rear window back there, but it really doesn't seem to be a problem as far as I am concerned. Now, I am driving in sport mode right now, so let's see what the difference in acceleration is if I'm not in sport mode. Now, you'll notice a difference, but I'm going to tell you what, and I'm, again, just easing into the pedal a little bit, not going too hard, but you're still going to have no trouble getting up to speed whatsoever. It's going to give you a very enjoyable driving experience. The technology here is not difficult to learn. I like that it's not what I would call an overload. In other words, you don't have too much that you have to deal with as far as a lot of sub-menus you have to search through to find whatever it is that you may be looking for. Something that might surprise a lot of people. I think some people associate a higher price tag with more challenging technology to learn, but that is definitely not the case here. The driver's seat is nice and comfortable, and as I mentioned earlier, when you turn on the ventilated seats, you instantly get that nice burst of air, and it doesn't take long to cool down. So that's going to be helpful. Everything is adjustable to the point that everybody should have no trouble setting things up with the steering wheel, with the driver's seat, to make sure they are nice and comfortable. The ride quality is good here. A little bit of a rough ride, but not too bad. Definitely not the worst I've ever experienced, but it's not going to necessarily be Cadillac soft, but I tell you what, it's not so bad that that should be an issue, at least for most people, in my opinion, when it comes to ultimately making the decision on whether or not you buy the Macan or not. But let me throw this disclaimer out there. That's why you need to drive these vehicles for yourself. It's one thing to learn about the vehicle, such as this Macan in these videos that people like myself make here on YouTube. But as far as the test drive goes, what I might think is maybe not the smoothest ride, you might hop in and say, oh man, that's better than you made it sound. Or it might be the other way. You might say, Tom, it wasn't as good as you made it sound. That's why it's good to get in here and drive it for yourself before you ultimately make your decision. And there it is, the 2025 Porsche Macan. Tell me what you like and what you don't like. A very well laid out vehicle, a lot of great capabilities, and even a lot of horsepower with the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine under the hood. Does it need more power? Well, I think everything does, but still, I think it gets the job done. Tell me what your thoughts are. I'd like to say a special thanks to my friends at Porsche Shreveport for loaning me this Macan for the day so I could tell you all about it. And a special thanks to all of you for being kind enough to give me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like button. That's very helpful to me. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And if you would, please share this video on your timelines on social media so other people can see it. If you'd like to learn about additional vehicles you may wish to consider purchasing, check out the video that's on the screen right now, and I will see you there.